Today I'm going to explain to you how to make any invisible state visible on your screen of space using your imagination. I'm also going to quote some of Neville Goddard's teachings, in which he goes into a detail on how to use your imagination to get anything you want or to externalize your desired state on your screen of space. So, how do you make anything invisible visible on your screen of space? To make anything invisible visible, you must move in your imagination. What do I mean by that? How do you make a motion in your imagination? Now, if you were physically to move to another place from where you are right now, you would be seeing something different. If you keep seeing the same thing, that means that you have not moved. So the same applies to motion in your imagination. So basically, to make any invisible state visible, you must make a move in your imagination the same way you are moving physically, or you move physically from one place to another. So the same thing happens with motion in your imagination. If you have moved in your imagination, you must see something different. If you keep seeing the same state or reality, that means that you have not moved. In other words, the key here is to move mentally or in your imagination to the place you would be at if your desire were true now, or if you have already received what you want. So here Neville Goddard gives us an example of how to move from one state to another in your imagination and thus externalize it on your screen of space. Well, if you had what you desire now, how would you see the world? If you see it as you now see it, you haven't moved. If you see it as you would see it after the result, or after you have received what you want, then you have moved. Now continue seeing that. For motion can be detected only by a change of position relative to another object. If I say I am moving now and I see everything as it is now, then I haven't moved. But if, as I move, I look at the same frame of reference and I see it from a different angle, then I have moved. So I use as a frame of reference my friends, your face, and on your face, I let you see me as you would have to see me if you knew of something that you do not now know. You have to see me differently. So the key here is to view yourself and everything from your desired state, as if you were physically there right now. So how do I know that I have moved? Well, I look at my world mentally and I must see a change. I must see that which implies that I have moved or that I have already received what I want. I'll take it spatially first. If you are familiar with San Francisco, and here we are in Los Angeles, I put myself in Union Square in San Francisco. How do I know? Well, my eyes are open and I'm seeing the St. Francis Hotel. If I turn around, my back is to the St. Francis Hotel and I'm looking towards the other side of the square. I go beyond it in my mind's eye and I go down to Market Street. I feel that I am there. Well, how do I know? Now think of Los Angeles. I think of Los Angeles and I see it 500 miles to the south of me. If Los Angeles is 500 miles to the south of me, I must be at least 500 miles north. But now I will locate myself in San Francisco by these familiar objects. and then think of Los Angeles and see it 500 miles to the south. Well, that's where I am. But I am told I can't be double-minded. Let not the man think that he will receive anything from the Lord if he is a double-minded person. So when I sleep this night, I must sleep as though I were in San Francisco. And as I am falling off to sleep, I must think of the place that I formerly knew, which is Los Angeles, and see it to the south of me, 500 miles away, and fall asleep in that assumption that I actually am in San Francisco. That is a motion, and without motion, it is impossible to bring forth anything. It is impossible to detect motion unless you have some fixed frame of reference against which motion moves, because motion can only be detected by a change relative to some other state. So what Neville is saying here is that it is impossible to bring forth anything invisible from the invisible unless you make a motion in your imagination. In other words, God in you, which is your imagination, must make a move. In order to perceive or see any particular state or reality, you must view yourself from that reality, or you must be that state. Key here is to imagine in first-person point of view, or through your own eyes, a scene which implies that you have already received what you want. This is how you make a motion. And then you want to remain there, or you want to loop your imaginal scene until it takes on the tones of reality, or until you can feel the reality of what you want to the best of your ability, using any of your inner five senses, or a combination of them, such as a sense of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, or smelling, whatever it is that you desire. And once you have felt the reality of what you want to the best of your ability, or once you feel the relief or the thrill of now having what you want, you can drop it by remembering what you have done. So tomorrow, if you wake up in the same reality, or if your senses deny the evidence of what you have done in your imagination, know that in its appointed hour, the state imagined must be projected on your screen of space, because your imagination is God. I found that if I slept while in New York City as though I were in Barbados, and to prove I was in Barbados, I thought of New York City and saw it 2,000 miles to the north of me. Then came a letter from my brother giving reasons justifying why I should come to Barbados, and then making it possible by enclosing a draft. In the letter, he stated that if I would go to a certain steamship company, that he had already written them, and they would give me a ticket to Barbados, that I needed no money. The draft would take care of my normal needs aboard the ship, and that I could sign for anything that I wanted. If I used the bar, sign everything that I wanted, and he would meet me on arrival and pay all expenses that I incurred on the trip. I did not write him to ask anything of him. He, at the same time that I was doing what I'm telling you that I did, he had the impulse to write me and give me reasons why I should come to Barbados. So the key here is to keep looping your imaginal scene until it takes on the tones of reality. So as Neville Goddard mentioned, to prove to himself that he was in Barbados, he saw New York City 2,000 miles north of him. So he used a sense of seeing. Therefore, it's important to loop your imaginal scene until it takes on the tones of reality, meaning you want to imagine using any of your five inner senses or a combination of them to prove to yourself that you are wherever you want to be, or you have already received what you want. So this is your test, even though physically you are wherever you are right now. If you can go beyond your senses and assume that you are elsewhere using any of your inner five senses, in other words, you conceive an imaginal scene, which implies that you are already in your desired state or reality, just like Neville Goddard did when he assumed that he was in Barbados. And to prove to himself that he was actually there, he saw New York City 2,000 miles north of him. So to prove to yourself that you are in your desired reality, you want to feel that reality to the best of your ability using your inner five senses. So you loop your imaginal scene until you get a sensation of having seen, heard, tasted, smelled, or touched whatever it is that you desire in your imagination. This is how you prove to yourself that you have already done it. And if you do this, the state imagined must be objectified or projected on the screen of space. In the example of Barbados, because Neville Goddard imagined himself to be in Barbados, his brother had an impulse to send him the money and invite him to go to Barbados.